Good morning. I hope you can all hear me today. In a few minutes, we're waiting for some of the panelists to join us. I can already see Ibu Shinta. We're waiting Pak Mahendra, Vice Minister Mahendra, and then also Ambassador Vorobieva, as well as Ambassador Wahid, who's joining us from Moscow. Oh, I see Pak Wahid already here.
Thank you, Pak. Good morning.
Okay, thank you, Pak. Welcome, Vice Minister.
Thank you. Very good morning, everybody.
Very good morning, Pak.
Morning to you all.
Morning.
In the interest of time, let me start today's special event. I'd like to first of all wish all of you good morning. It's late morning here in Jakarta, as well as very early morning, I guess, in Moscow. It's about 7 o'clock in Moscow. Let me welcome, first of all, our distinguished Vice Minister, Pak Mahendra. I'd like to also greet and welcome Ambassador Ludmila Vorobieva, who's joined us. Also Ambassador Wahid, who's joining us from Moscow.
Morning.
And also, of course, Pak Ivan Polyakov from the Russian ASEAN Business Council, and of course, our own Ibu Shinta Kamdani, the Vice Chair of CADIN for International Relations. Without further ado, today's special event is entitled Commemoration of 70 Years of the Indonesia-Russia Domestic Relations. And this is a very special year for us. 70 years is a long time. First, we started having diplomatic relations, I think, in 1950. But let me read a little bit what the agenda is for today. We're going to have a congratulatory remark from our chairman, Pak Rosan Roslani, who unfortunately cannot be with us today. Then there's some welcoming remarks from our vice chairwoman for international relations, Ibu Shinta, followed then by the keynote speech by Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, Bapak Mahendra Siregar. After that, then we'll have the interactive dialogue between the ambassadors as well as the Russian ASEAN Business Council. Now, before we start off, let us also show a short video from our sponsors, Artagraha, which operates a broad portfolio of business activities spanning from technology to industry, also doing agriculture to fishing, but also they are very much involved in humanitarian efforts as well as conservation efforts and environmental efforts. With that, the technical team.
Dengan berlakunya PSBB, namun kali ini dengan dukungan para pengusaha nasional, AGP melakukan bantuan sembako dan bantuan lainnya langsung diberikan kepada warga kurang mampu serta secara gratis dengan tetap mengikuti protokol medis seperti menjaga jarak, memakai masker, dan lain-lain. Paket sembako juga diberikan kepada para janda atau warakawin dari keluarga TNI Polri yang gugur saat bertugas membela negara.
It is a great honor and privilege for me on the behalf of Indonesian Chambers of Commerce and Industry to dedicate a message on the occasion of the 70 years anniversary of the establishment of Indonesia-Russia diplomatic relation. In our long journey of our diplomatic relationship, it is only proper for the two countries to commemorate happily our 70 years Indonesia-Russia excellent diplomatic relations, which contain a lifetime of memories, a lifetime of hard work, and a lifetime of partnership. I hope we will continue to further elevate our partnership to bring our countries and people more prosperous.
I'd like to also welcome today, I see within the audience we have Josep Tavares, the next ambassador of Indonesia for Russia. I think he's joining us as one of the participants of this event today. Selamat pagi, Pak. And so with that, I'd like to give the floor to Ibu Shinta Kamdani for your welcoming remarks. Please, Ibu Shinta.
Thank you, Didit. Good morning to you all, Your Excellency, Bapak Mahendra Siregar, our own Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, our Ambassador, Pak Wahid, Mrs. Ludmila, of course, also our counterpart, Mr. Ivan Polyakov, the Chairman of Russia-ASEAN Business Council, all panelists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and Pak Jose, welcome to this webinar. I think it's a pity that during this COVID-19, we cannot meet physically in person. I think this would have been a very big celebration commemorating the 70 years. But for now, we could only do it virtually. I hope when COVID passed, we will have the real celebration with you all. So it's an honor for me to represent Kadin Indonesia and join the Foreign Ministry as well as both embassies on the commemoration of Indonesia-Russian diplomatic relationship today. Over the years, I think this friendship of Indonesia-Russia economic relations are largely government-driven economic relation. We are dominated mainly by state-owned enterprises, then private enterprises. A significant portion of our bilateral economic activities is related to defense and military, from trade in arms, aircraft, as well as joint production of military equipment. Although such economic activities are mutually beneficial for our two economies, and has been proven to bring our two countries closer together, we in Kadin believe that Indonesia-Russia bilateral economic relations should be expanded beyond this government-led cooperation, with more involvement from the Indonesian and Russian private enterprises to tap into the full extent of our bilateral potential. Indonesia and Russia are huge markets with abundant resources and economic potential. We are also two economies with high complementary, which means that the products and services that we generate and export are rarely in direct competition with those that we produce domestically. Our economic activities will not be a threat to our domestic economies, but will be mutually beneficial to the needs of both countries. Thus, we should utilize this momentum of 70 years to boost our trade and investment activities. We need to reflect back and see how we can improve this relationship. In recent years, Kadin has seen that Indonesian export to Russia has started to diversify beyond defense-related equipment. We exported palm oil, electrical and machinery parts and components, cocoa, coffee, footwear, and many more. Kadin even directly engaged in bilateral energy cooperation with Russia. However, our overall export to Russia was stagnated with declining trend when Russia economy is actually expanding in the past 4 years, with GDP at 1.69 trillion US dollar per capita income. of $12,000 in 2019. So I can hardly believe myself when I found out that Indonesia export to Russia in 2019 is merely $861 million when Russia total import from the world in 2019 was at staggering $243.78 billion. This is only a half of Thailand export to Russia, which stand at 1.75 billion. Even less than a third of Vietnam export to Russia. We certainly missed a lot of economic opportunities here. In this momentum of diplomatic anniversary, I certainly hope that we can explore and tap into our bilateral economic opportunities more than we already have in the past 70 years. I understand that we have pandemic in the horizon and a gloomy global economic environment. However, this should not be an excuse to sit idly or stop our activities. We need to find ways in how we can complement each other's needs in this difficult time. The International Trade Center data shows that Indonesia has so much untapped export potential to Russia. I want to be very specific. I know the discussion also will explore this later. From CPO derivatives to vehicle components, rubber, shrimp, and pineapples. Russia could also find Indonesia as one of its investment destination in ASEAN, sharing a fraction of $22.75 billion of net FDI outflow to Indonesia and improve its business presence in Indonesia in the near future. So maybe we can come up with a cooperation to improve value added to many more natural resources out both economy, produce or needed. Maybe we can also form a new supply chain between Indonesia and Russia to fight against this pandemic. We are now very much focused on healthcare and medical equipment and so forth. So these are areas that definitely we can also cooperate during the pandemic. I really believe there are so much that we need to do together. We actually in Kadin has worked very closely with our foreign ministry to get the market intelligence in place. And now we can be very specific in the sectors and products that we want to cooperate. We also have just established our business service desk. So Kadin now has a BSD, business service desk, which the focus is to do more business matching between Indonesia and its potential partners. So we have the database in coordination with all sectoral associations, and we would look forward to more potential business matching with Russian companies as well. We also look forward for more discussion. I know the government has just launched last year the Indonesia Eurasia Economic Cooperation. I think this is a very good potential to also bring forward for a better market access. And I know there might be delays because of the pandemic, but I think this is something that we should also explore further. So I hope we can have a more meaningful and fruitful discussion today, and we look forward to work more together with you, and may this be a new landmark to create a more substantial and concrete economic activities to the benefit of the Indonesian business and Russian business alike. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibu Shinta. Great remarks. Now I'd like to give the floor to our Vice Minister, His Excellency Pak Mahendra Siregar. The floor is yours, Pak.
Thank you, Pak Didit Ratam, the head of Russia Committee of Kadin Indonesia. And of course, a very good morning to everybody. I congratulate all of us for the 70 years of diplomatic relations between Indonesia and Russia. And I thank Kadin Indonesia, and particularly today, Shinta Kamdani, our Vice Chair of Kadin Indonesia, and of course, Ambassador Ludmila Vorobieva, who now I can see your face, especially with that background. We should not miss you by leaving you with the black box like earlier. And Wahid Supriyadi, Ambassador in Moscow, and Mr. Ivan Polyakov, the Chairman of Russia-ASEAN Business Council. Well, I also would like to thank Artagraha Peduli, and I'm happy to see that video because it is a testimony that Indonesian private sector is very active, taking part in addressing the global pandemic happening in Indonesia. And on that note, I also would like to inform our Russian colleague that the newly established committee for accelerating the economic growth as well as addressing the COVID-19 will also include our chairman of Kadin Indonesia, Pak Rosan. So that shows us that our private sector, and particularly through Kadin Indonesia, should be part of this very important undertaking in ensuring that our not only economic health is improved, but also public health and condition in addressing the COVID-19 situation is improved, and engaging very central the private sector. If we see why do we celebrate the 70 years of the anniversary, obviously we had something happen in 1950, and that was just around Indonesia's first joining the UN as the 60th members of the United Nations, right after concluding our agreement with the Dutch in 1949. So we established right away with many good friends in that era, including Russia, and that symbolizes why we have quite a long period of diplomatic relations. One of the very first among nations of the world that recognize and establish diplomatic relations with Indonesia. That is showing us how strategic our bilateral relations since the beginning of our Indonesia's joining the global community of nations. Now, of course, we would like to update our relations, and on that, it is important to also see, while we are addressing the pandemic situation, the new opportunities at the same time of what we can do at this time. First of all, Indonesia now is trying very hard to still preserve a positive growth for the whole 2020. It's not yet certain, but we hope, despite the challenges and despite the very challenging second quarter of this year, we hope that we can manage to preserve a positive growth of the whole 2020, albeit it's not in the large number. With that in mind, we would like to focus on several aspects. And this is where I think Russia is very strategic, becoming our partner in developing our capacity. Ibu Shinta mentioned earlier on our effort to improve the overall performance and position of Indonesia in the global value chain, of where many of which have been considered as too sensitive or too risky if depending on one or two only countries. The world has seen that we should diversify more global value chains to also diversify and manage the risk equally in our regions. And on that note, Indonesia is trying very hard to improve the position in many of the global value chains industries. We have been able to attract some concrete investments, mostly from the regions, from East Asian countries, but also we are very interested to see more large companies or medium-sized companies to invest and use Indonesia as its platform to address the risk of the too dependent global value chain to one or two countries only. And in that particular note, the effort for the country to improve the whole pharmaceutical global value chain is very key. We learned the hard way, the hard lesson, that our too dependence on the importation of the active pharmaceutical ingredients, which are the raw materials used for medicines pharmacy industry, which amounted to 90% of which are imported by us, is a great opportunity for relevant sectors from Russia to look into us with your high technology and experience in pharmaceutical. The second part that I would like also to see that Indonesia and Russia respectively are gateways to ASEAN and Eurasian Economic Union markets. And I think this is where we need to communicate to our business stakeholders that when you come and deal business, trade, investment with Indonesia and vice versa with Russia, you are dealing with a country that functions as a gateway to its regions. And I think this is very key because unfortunately, whether we like it or not, we might have to see a more challenging geopolitical situation in the coming years ahead. So it is important for us who have been knowing each other for so long and have been good friends, and now this year will become officially a strategic partner within the strategic partnership arrangement to communicate with the business communities the confidence toward each other to do the trade, investment to each other, but also as a gateway to the whole region. Lastly, I also would like to stress the importance of several high-profile projects that have been ongoing for some years. We understand there are some challenges, but it is very key for us to look into that projects with the strategic eyes and consideration, because these are also symbols of our commitment and seriousness in our two countries' economic and business relations. So with that, again, I would like to congratulate all of us for this commemoration of the 70 years of diplomatic relations, and certainly look forward to welcome the fruition of such long strategic relations with concrete figures and stronger business commercial relations between the two private and public sectors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vice Minister Pak Mahendra Siregar. I think you hit all the good the points, and I think one of the last points that you mentioned, Pak Mahendra, is the fruition of our efforts to come up with real progress between for economics between the two countries. And that is also something that Ibu Shinta has mentioned before with regard to implementation of the relationships that we have done in the last 70 years. Now, there are a couple of things. I mean, you mentioned, I mean, Vice Ministers, you mentioned about high-profile projects that at the moment are somewhat lingering. There's also a challenge in terms of trade that we are way below potential. We only have a trade of $2 billion going both ways between Indonesia and Russia. Of course, the pandemic of COVID-19 hasn't made it easier to do trades, as both economies have suffered somewhat. But on the bright side, there are also some good points that I'd like to point out here. One is the increase of tourism. It has increased by 25% between 2018 to 2019. And simply the increased exchange of business delegation that we at Kadin have seen between Indonesian businessmen going to Russia and vice versa, Russian businessmen coming to Indonesia, very eager to open businesses and to invest, to trade in Indonesia and increase these. We've seen, for instance, cooperation in intelligent transportation. One of the reasons I might point out here that there are a lot of participants here today from the Ministry of Transportation. Also, there's a high-tech product from Russia, from medium companies in Russia that are coming to Indonesia, being introduced and adapted in Indonesia. So that's also something very positive that we see at the moment. And vice versa, there are also Indonesian companies that have opened the market in Russia. Mayora, for instance, has exported now about at least 1,000 to 2,000 containers of their products to Russia, which is amazing for one single product, which is the Torabika coffee product. So value chain in terms of pharmaceutical value chain, this is obviously very important. We know that Russia has capabilities with medical equipment as well as vaccine as well as other products that are needed. And with that, I'd like to actually start the dialogue by asking Madam Ambassador about, it's a two-part question. First of all, how do you see, or where do you see the relationship between the two countries evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? That's the first part of it. And the second part of it, in terms of economic relationship, how do you see trade and investment grow, and how can the governments of both countries facilitate this? Because at the end of the day, businesses need to do or need to execute transactions and investments. But I think the platform, the atmosphere needs to be set by both governments, both the Indonesian government as well as the Russian government. And with that, Madam Ambassador, I'll give you the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Bapak Mahendra Siregar, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs and of the Republic of Indonesia. My good friend, Bapak Wahid Supriyadi, Ambassador of Indonesia to Moscow. Madam Shinta Kamdani, Vice Chairwoman of International of Kadin Indonesia. Mr. Ivan Polikov, Chairman of Russia ASEAN Business Council, Bapak Didit. Pa Jose Tavares, who will succeed Pa Wahid Supriyadi in Moscow. Before answering your question, Pa Didit, First of all, let me express my gratitude for the invitation to take part in today's most meaningful event. Of course, it's a great honor and pleasure for me, and congratulations to all of us on the 70th anniversary of the bilateral diplomatic relations between our two countries. Before the pandemic, we have worked out a very comprehensive program of celebration of this event. Unfortunately, most of the events, we have to postpone them. There was, nevertheless, we're very grateful to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia and the National Archive of Indonesia, because with cooperation with these two organizations, we had a very good event at the National Gallery in February. We had a exhibition of Russian painters, Necklace of Equator, dedicated to the culture and tradition of Indonesia, as well as the exposition of archived documents and photos. And it was visited by more than 5,000 people. Hopefully, after the pandemic is over, we will be able to continue our celebrations, not only online, but offline as well. Also, I would like to say that in Russia, we see Indonesia as our key partner in Southeast Asia, and not only in Southeast Asia, but in the Asia-Pacific region as a whole. I'm happy to say that the cooperation between our two countries is based on the foundation of friendship, long traditions, and they have de facto reached the level of strategic partnership, and we only need to formalize that by signing the declaration on strategic partnership. We were hoping that we would have this year a summit between our two leaders, but because of the pandemic, unfortunately, it didn't happen, but we are optimistic that it will happen maybe later this year or next year. I would also like to mention that we are working closely together with Indonesia in the UN Security Council, as Indonesia now is the non-permanent member of UNSC, and we share similar views on many topical issues of the global agenda. We have an active dialogue in the spheres of security, countering terrorism, national information security, defense. So I'm very positive about the future development of our relations, and of course our cooperation in trade and economy is being conducted in accordance with the agreements that were reached during meetings between Vladimir Putin, the President of the Russian Federation, and Joko Widodo, the President of the Republic of Indonesia, which took place in Sochi in May 2016 and Singapore in November 2018, as well as the results of the last session of the Russian-Indonesian Joint Commission on Trade, Economic and Technical Cooperation, which was held in Moscow in October 2018. I would like to echo the sentiments that was translated by the previous speakers, that although according to the Russian statistics, and I know that there is a little bit of difference between the Russian statistics and Indonesian statistics, our trade volume has reached $2.5 billion US. It's of course it's not enough. If we look at the potential of both countries, the great natural and human resources, our joint population is 400 million people, as well as the mutual interest in cooperation development that both Russia and Indonesia possess, it is definitely not enough. Despite the global slowdown caused by the COVID-19 trade and economic cooperation, still there are things that are going on, as Padijit has mentioned. And in January-May 2020, the trade turnover has grown by 2.2%, if opposed to the same period last year. However, I would like to point out that according to our statistics, also Indonesian export to Russia significantly exceeds the volume of Russian supply to Indonesia. This can be partly explained by the very comfortable condition provided by the Russian government for Indonesian business. The embassy of Russia in Jakarta and our Russian trade mission in Indonesia, we're ready to provide all the necessary assistance to both Russian and Indonesian companies in finding trade partners and promoting of their products to the markets of our countries. Of course, we need to do more. And as we see, there are very good opportunity for cooperation in such areas as power engineering, including nuclear energy, whenever the government of Indonesia feels ready to engage in this area. Oil and gas, mining industry, mineral processing, transport, infrastructure, aircraft engineering and shipbuilding, ICT, nano and biotechnology, agriculture, high-tech products. The issues of further expansion of our economic and investment ties are the focal point of the Joint Commission that we have, and several working groups functioning under its auspices. I would like to also mention that last year, the number of working groups that we have was increased by the establishment of 2 new working groups on banking and finance and marine affairs and fisheries. So that also are areas of cooperation that we should explore more. The investments projects that were mentioned, I would like to highlight the project by Russian company Rosneft and Indonesian National Oil Corporation Pertamina. They're working together, and they're working on the construction of an oil refinery and a petrochemical complex in East Java. And according to what information we have, they are the project is going on, and hopefully it will be completed in due time. You know that we had a project of Russian railways in Kalimantan. Unfortunately, the project will not be continued as it was planned, and partly because of the plans to relocate the capital of Indonesia to this region. But I must assure you that the Russian railways are ready to cooperate and to work with Indonesian partners on other projects, and they are exploring the opportunities, more opportunities here. Ibu Shinta mentioned and also Bapak Mahendra mentioned the cooperation and dialogue that we're having between the Eurasian Economic Union and Indonesia. It is a very promising also area. In last year, we had a memorandum on cooperation between the Eurasian Economic Commission and the government of Indonesia. It was signed, and also we are looking now at holding the first session of the joint working group to explore further opportunities. So I would also like to echo Bapak Didit in saying that the increase of tourist arrivals from Russia last year was very impressive. Now last year we had around 160,000 Russian tourists, mostly in Bali, of course, actually, which presented quite a problem for us when Russia closed its borders in March. We had 14 repatriation flights from Bali. But hopefully after the pandemic is over, the flow of Russian tourists will resume, because I must say Russians just love Bali and Indonesia. Defense cooperation was mentioned, and of course just the sign that we have quite active dialogue in this area is that the Minister of Defense of Indonesia, General Prabowo Subianto, since the beginning of the year has been he visited Russia twice already, and the last time he was attending the military parade in Moscow for the celebration of the 75th anniversary of victory in World War II, or what we call it, the Great Patriotic War. We're very honored because I think it's the first time that the Minister of Defense of Indonesia has participated in this very important event for Russian people. I would like also to say that one of the reasons that we've seen such an increase of tourist arrivals from Russia is that now we, well, before the pandemic, of course, we have Russian airlines. Russia has opened a direct flight, Moscow, Denpasar, Moscow, 3 times a week. And that was very important for ensuring the connectivity between our two countries. So I will probably not, yeah, one other issue is very important. Yes, the pandemic also showed the necessity to have cooperation in pharmaceutical area. We are also having some dialogue on this. As you know, on April 13, there was a telephone conversation between our 2 presidents, which agreed to have cooperation in this area. And it was followed by a video conference between representatives from our 2 ministries of health. So we will see what we can do together to fight the COVID pandemic. Well, COVID-19 pandemic. I will not talk much more. To conclude, from our point of view, the Russian-Indonesian relations are on the rise now, and we are convinced that our further common efforts will be aimed at strengthening these ties based on the foundation that have been built during this 70 years of our relationship. And of course, we hope that this will benefit the people and the welfare of the people of our 2 countries. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. Thank you very much for your views that you've shared with us, with the audience. I agree with you that relationships are definitely on the rise. We've seen that in the past couple of years. I think the last 2-3 years have been extraordinary in terms of number of relations and delegations and high-level contacts that have been made between the 2 countries, as well as in terms of business people themselves. Strengthening, I can just hope that we can, after this COVID-19 pandemic, can go along and continue on and actually realize some of these projects, the big ones, the ones that you mentioned with regard to Rosneft as well as with regard to RZD. These are important projects, very strategic projects, but also there are also mid-sized companies from Russia that are also coming into the market. Now, I'd like to give the floor to Pak Wahid, our ambassador, our distinguished ambassador in Moscow. Your Excellency, the floor is yours, Pak.
Thank you, Pak Didit, Pak Mahendra Siregar, Vice Minister, my partner, good friend, Ibu Ludmila Vorobieva, Ibu Shinta, and my friend, Mr. Ivan Polikov. Still a bit early in Moscow. I'm glad that Kadin organized this very good event, and I'm counting the days in Moscow because I'm scheduled to be back on the 2nd of August. But unfortunately, last night I've got an email from Etihad that the flight is canceled. And now I have to look for another flight, and hopefully Madam Ludmila will send Russia Air to repatriate their citizen in Bali, so I will be one of those to be repatriated. I'm glad that Ibu Ludmila spoke before me. Actually, he touched on already 75% of my topics. So I have only the rest of 25%. But before that, I would like to show you a 4 minutes video which depicts the road to our 70 relations. It's very historic moment starting from the visit of our president in 1956. Actually, President Sukarno visited Russia 4 times, and to the last, the visit of President Jokowi in May 2018, and what we have done to commemorate the 70th anniversary of our diplomatic relations. It's said that the pandemic is there, as Ludmila mentioned, that some of our big programs have to be canceled, including the long-awaited festival Indonesia. It should be in the 5th and should be on the 31st of July. And yesterday I made a farewell call on Vice Minister Mr. Magulov, and he was also touching some issues that have been mentioned by Ibu Ludmila, and also regret that some big events like St. Petersburg Economic Forum, Far Eastern Economic Forum, and also the festival had to be cancelled. So I would like to interview with 4 interesting videos, including one 6-year-old Marsha, not the bear, but Marsha, who witnessed the festival, and he could sing the song called Santik. And to my surprise, she is also welcoming our idea to have that presentation during our anniversary of our Independence Day. Please, Pak Yosef.
Mengenai 70 tahun. Saya sendiri sudah 87 tahun. Itu 70 tahun. Saya ada di Indonesia. Beberapa 2-3 tahun sudah ada dijalin hubungan diplomatik. Ya. Dan sejak itu Indonesia selalu hidup dalam hati sanubari saya.
Thank you very much. I hope it will entertain you, and that's what we have done in Russia. And in October, Marsha and her mother went to Bali for 2 months. So I'm glad that the festival will not only promote Indonesia in Russia, but also Russia in Indonesia. If we look at the number of tourists from Indonesia, according to the data from the tourism ministry in Moscow, from 2016 only about 5,000, but I was told by the ministry that 2018 already 30,000 Indonesian visiting Russia, and Russia becoming one of the best destination for Indonesian tourists. Now I would like to continue to, because I've been here 4 years, 4 months, and I'm happy that there's not much difference in our political relations. So I'm very much focusing on my work on how to increase trade and investment. Let me show you some of the presentation that I already prepared. I would like also to mention what Ibu Ludmila said in the presentation about the difference in data. This is always a dispute between our part and Russian part every time we have joined a commission meeting. If we look at from the BPS, the National State Statistic Agency, this year, 2019, there is a decrease of 18% in our trade relation from 2.5 to $2 billion. And we suffer a deficit of 340. Yeah. But if you look at from the Russian side, from Federal Customs, our trade declined only 5.5%, and we enjoy a surplus of 912,000. So there is a big difference in the data that we have from both agencies. If I look at from the positive side, let me look from the data by Federal Customs. In 2018, we ranked number 5 actually in our trade relations behind Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand. But now on 2019, sorry, we ranked number 3. And if you look at the trend of Russian trade with ASEAN countries, only Malaysia put the plus 1, and the rest minus, and we are the least one. Yeah, compared to even Vietnam, there's been a decrease of 20% on the trade 2019, and Singapore 37%, Philippines 7%. So we are not that very bad if you look at the general picture of Russian and ASEAN trade relations. And what are our main export to Russia next? So these are the 10 biggest, these are the 10 biggest of Indonesian export 2019. Palm oil and its fraction decreased slightly, 5.52%. I think this is a global trend, but still record the highest in terms of the quantity, almost 600 million, yes, 568 million, and followed by rubber, although there was a decrease of 22%. But we have also gains on other products like cocoa, footwear, and other. So these are 2 areas that also very significant. We have very significant increase. And more interestingly, our export number 8, for example, stainless steel, increased by almost 280%. And as electric also appliances also an increase of 33%. So not that bad. Next. These are our gains in our export to Russia. It is very interesting that ships, boats, and floating structures, this is a new record, 25 million. That was actually a very sophisticated boat produced in Banyuwangi, and it was used by the Russian Special Forces because this is made of composite, and this is very high-tech product that we already export to Russia. So now the total of export not only dominated by commodities, but also some high-value products like iron and steel, as I mentioned before, and also footwear and so on. And also cocoa and cocoa preparation, also an increase of 17.56%. And the biggest gain is inorganic chemical and so on, which increased by 770%. Next. What is interesting is on the first quarter, our trade relations increased by 8.7%. From Russian point of view, from Russian export, an increase of 13.15%, and from Indonesian sides, an increase of 6.40%. I think the biggest loser from Russia for the first quarter is its export on grain or wheat, and we are still negotiating on that. I think the decrease of 70%. And if we look at the characteristic of our trade bilateral relation, it's complementary. We need each other. Russia needs a lot of palm oil from us, and we need grain from Russia. Next. This is our export products from Indonesia on the first quarter. Mostly positive, like animal and vegetable fats oil, an increase of 25%. Iron and steel, this is the big gains of our export, an increase of 256%. Footwear, 30%. Cocoa, coffee, edible fruits, and so on. And vehicle, other than railway, is an increase of 64%. This is the products of high-tech and value-added product from Indonesia, and also surprisingly musical instrument. And before we did mention about our biggest export, even bigger gain of export from Mayura, which has exported more than 1,000 containers every year. And I found out personally when I went to Vladivostok, I went to airports in the middle of Siberia, and just recently I went to Dubrovka market in Moscow. They are available. This product are available even in the traditional market ones. Next. Now, what is interesting for us is the potential of vegetable and fruits export, especially tropical fruits. If we look at this data, for example, it's amazing that Ecuador is much further from here, from Moscow, dominated the Russian import of fruits and vegetables. 21% of shares of fruits and vegetables imported from Ecuador. And what more, Ecuador share to banana in Russia accounted to 96%. So why can't we export from Indonesia? We have so many different kind of banana. And next followed by Turkey, China, and Azerbaijan. But starting last year, we already started exported with mangoes and mangosteen. We look further. Next. Now this is the first export of, actually not the first, the second export of aromanis, manga aromanis, and first export of manga gedong. Manga gedong is very expensive, so this is only for the middle up market in Moscow. Hopefully we can continue this one. In terms of the number, may not be very big, but this is the beginning. If you look at our fruit export from Indonesia, 11.1 million, and then guava, mango, and other fruits. So there was a market of around 6.8 billion US dollar for fruit and markets, and there are about 2.5 billion that was vacated by from European, Western European countries because of the sanction, and then Russia related not to import fruits from European market. So we have actually a big opportunities to fill in the gap, about 2.5 billion US dollar. Next. This is something also very new. And this thanks to the Indonesian Festival. And every year we organize the fashion show. We have privilege to have one of the national leaders in fashion industry, Mr. Ferry Sunarto. This is taken from the previous festival in Indonesia. If you look at the HS code 6210 of articles and apparel, there was an increase of 7.9% in 2019. So now Russia is becoming very familiar with different kind of our products, especially batik from different countries, different regions, and also ikat. And footwear products, 2019 is a big number, 105.3 billion US dollar. Next. Spices. If you look at the life in Moscow, the last 3 years, there has been a booming of coffee shop everywhere. And it turned out that some of our spices have been there, for example, for kayu manis, what is in English? Cinnamon. Cinnamon has the biggest share in Russian market, 66.5%. And then others, we have also such interesting figures. So one of the booming sectors in culinary in Russia, dominated by Asian food like from Japan, Korea, and Vietnam, but we are just started to have some Indonesian restaurant in Moscow and St. Petersburg. So this is also a good opportunity for us to export our spices. Next. This is what we have done in Russia so far. We already organized the 4 successive festivals, and we have some awards like MURI, the Indonesian Guinness Record, and also from the Russian Asian Union of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs. We hope, I'm happy that my good friend Pa Jose is with us. Hopefully that this will be continued in the future, because apart from the festival, we organize also the big Russia-Indonesia Business Council, Business Forum every year. And I would like to thank the Russia-ASEAN Business Council for supporting our festival. But before the pandemic, to commemorate the 70th anniversary of our relations, we managed to have some events organized in cooperation with the Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs, like what we had in the video, the exhibition of archives from the ministries. But also we have conducted a video conference with TIDA, Tatarstan Investment Development Agency, and we had also a webinar from the Association of Exporter and Importer from both sides, from Indonesia and Russia, and it was very, very fruitful and very pragmatic approach. And lastly, also we had conducted a video conference with the city of St. Petersburg. So with that one, I would like to conclude by announcing that after this one, after this video conference, we will launch the book that is destined to Indonesian friends, and we definitely will provide some books, hard copies to Kadin and other business association on how to do business in Russia. So in Bahasa Indonesia, we call it Panduan Bisnis untuk Rusia. So this will be in Bahasa, but for those who are interested to get this one, we can send it through ebook. So with that, I would like to conclude, and I thank you very much for Kadin to organize this very significant event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Wahid. It's very good. I mean, it is very impressive what the Indonesian Embassy in Moscow has done in the past 4 years. And especially, I'm very interested, I'm very eager to see the book, the guidelines, the panduan of doing business in Russia. That would be something that Kadin would be more than happy to distribute and also produce here in Indonesia to distribute among Indonesians, because later on we'll have a couple of questions But before we go to the Q&A session, I'd like to also give a chance to Pak Ivan Polyakov to speak about how you see Indonesia and Russia can develop our economic relationship. I mean, obviously, you've had experience in Russia, not only with Indonesia, but you've also dealt with the other 9 countries, the other countries within ASEAN, and you've had experience. I understand that each country is unique and each country has its specific circumstances, but based on your experience, how can we move forward the economic, the trade and investment relationship between the 2 countries, which is obviously still has a lot of potential of going through, Pa Ivan. So what's your view on that?
Thank you, dear Mr. Ratam, Your Excellency Mr. Siregar, Your Excellency Ambassador Vorobieva, Your Excellency Ambassador Supriyadi, dear Ms. Kamdani, good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank our Indonesian partners for inviting me to share my view on Russia-Indonesia economic cooperation. As you know, Russia and Indonesia in general have taken active measures to support their economy, business, and people during the pandemic. Today, Ambassador Supriyadi told us with particular details about our huge trading opportunities. I'd like to focus on several points which could promote business cooperation between Russia and Indonesia. First, ensuring supply chains, especially for essential goods and services. Integration of mutual markets remain an important task for business communities of our countries. Second, facilitation of digital infrastructure. I believe promoting digital trade, e-commerce, development of ICT infrastructure, using of e-payments for cross-border transactions will enhance digital connectivity between Russia and Indonesia, as well as between Russia and ASEAN countries. In this part, I believe that business could achieve invest in the development of technologies, including the IT and big data. So, investment liberalization and strengthening mutual trust to business environment. Business community and government should initiate simplifying investment conditions, lower barriers to investment, and abandoning restrictions on investments. Fourth, elimination of non-tariff barriers in trade, especially for essentials, agriculture products, food and manufacturing process. Fifth, localization of production and processing. We consider Indonesia as a hub for doing business in ASEAN. I'm confident the strategic partnership between Russia and Indonesia and ASEAN, including cooperation in particular between Russia and Indonesia, will contribute to a further growth in the well-being of our people. And I hope there are much more opportunities to promote trade, economic and investment cooperation between our countries. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Polyakov. I think that is an interesting list. I mean, you mentioned among other things, facilitation of digital infrastructure, IT, the issue of mutual trust. elimination of non-tariff barriers, and then localization of products. These are all important issues. And actually, I think I'd like to go on a Q&A session, and because I don't think this is a coincidence, but some of the questions are within the issues that you mentioned. And there are a couple of questions. First of all, I'd like to address these questions to Ambassador Ludmila. Interestingly, some of the questions have gone or are around food industry. So these are question and non-questions, but I think we'd like you to comment on this. First of all, is that some of our participants feel that there needs to be more exports of Russian food products into Indonesia, because Russian food products are interesting and not many you can find here in Indonesia. More important point and more practical point is that one of our participants, Pak Thomas Hartono from Kadin, mentioned that he suggested that basically a lot of trade is being done between Russia and Indonesia, but through third countries. And I think this is the time to actually have direct trade between the two countries. I think, although it's not specifically in the question, but I think this refers to wheat, export of wheat product from Russia, which go through third countries such as Turkey. So that's something to think about. There's also a question asking about a specific bilateral arrangement in the high-tech sector. That is also a question that was posed by Pak Daniar, who is a tech lawyer. And in particular, I think this is with regards to relationship or cooperation within the aircraft sectors. I do understand that at the moment there's some collaboration in the works in terms of maintenance, maintenance and repair. There are also the development of a new regional aircraft between an Indonesian company RAT and Ilyushin, which is also in the talks. So the question here from our viewers is whether there will be a special bilateral arrangement within the high-tech sector between Indonesia and Russia. Maybe Ambassador Wahid, you maybe also be able to comment on this issue. And going back to the issue of transactions and trade transactions in general, we also have a question which is along the lines of what Pak Ivan Polyakov said with regards to mutual trust. I mean, some of our viewers feel the need of increased trust in terms of payment terms, of how to transact between Indonesia and Russia, which is a very practical question. I know that this is being addressed within the working group for banking and finance, but I think we also need to establish some kind of mechanism that eases the minds of Indonesian exporters, especially the small exporters who'd like to access the Russian markets, the ones that Pak Wahid mentioned, like the batik producers, maybe the coffee, the tea traders, the commodities traders. There are a lot of businesses that would like to go into Russia, but they don't know how to do payments with Russian companies. So that is also an issue that needs to be addressed. We also have a question from a Russian participant here in Indonesia with regards to medium company investment in Indonesia. one of the impediments that is being felt here in Indonesia is that there's only there's only one way that you can participate and invest in the Indonesian market, as being a PMA company, a foreign investment company, where the minimum equity that needs to be there is about 10 billion rupiah, or equivalent to about $700,000. So this is quite a high threshold for small and medium Russian companies that would like to access the market in Indonesia. So that seems to be an impediment that maybe Pak Wahid, you may be able to address, of whether there is a more practical way to access the Indonesian market for Russian companies with regards to establishing legal entities here in Indonesia. So with that, I'll give the floor again to Ambassador Ludmila, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, Pak Didit. Well, it's a whole range of questions, and to answer them in a comprehensive way, you will need hours. I'll try to be as short as I can because of the time limitations. Well, for food products from Russia to Indonesia. Well, what kind of food products where we will be looking at? Well, vodka. I think some of the vodka is imported to Indonesia, of course. Maybe it's not the largest market for such products from Russia. But seriously speaking, of course, wheat is one of our main items in agriculture. I would say agriculture products, but not only wheat. As you mentioned, and all the speakers I think mentioned that our countries the economies of our countries are complementary. We have grains, wheat, and other sort of grains that we would like to export more to Indonesia, and that is a very promising area, and because the export of wheat accounts for quite a significant part of our trade volume. Unfortunately, it has been down, and you are absolutely right. It goes through third countries, and of course that is a subject to I think negotiation between our two ministries of agriculture and trade, how to liquidate all the barriers and all in the paths of our trade, including wheat. We would like to see more of our grain products being imported to Indonesia, and I know that our relative bodies are in contact and discussing this issue. The other thing, you mentioned, and Pak Wahid has mentioned a lot about food products from Indonesia, like coffee, which is in every supermarket in Russia. You can find coffee from Indonesia. And I personally would like to see more mango from Indonesia. I think it's one of the best in the world. I agree. Well, Ecuador, with its bananas, you should try to compete with Ecuador, and we'll see more Indonesian bananas in Russia. For the high tech and ICT, yes, it's also an area that there have been dialogue on. I know that our Russian companies are exploring. You know that we have some actual advantage in this area, and we are ready to cooperate with Indonesia. On the special arrangement, well, a special arrangement usually is needed when we have a substantial volume of this kind of interaction. So we will see how it goes. If it reaches this level, it could be done. On the aircraft, civil aviation, of course, there's also a promising project, as Papa Didit mentioned, on building an Indonesian regional passenger aircraft together based on Russian aircraft Ilyushin 114. And I know that this project is going on, at least the discussion of this project is going on. I think it could work well, both for Russia and Indonesia. We have the technology, and Indonesia has the need actually to do so. So that would be really for the mutual interest of our two countries. On mutual trust, you're absolutely right, Padidit. Mutual trust is very important. It also not only on how to do financial transaction, but also, you know, Indonesia imposes some of anti-dumping duties on Russian products. Probably we need to look how to waive this, so we can, for example, on some of our steel products, maybe we need to look how to get away with these duties, because of course it's not helps to promote our trade relations. On financial transaction, there are some, of course, there are some difficulties in that. And you also mentioned, Pavdidi, the establishment of a working group on banking and finance, and especially the focus of this group is to find ways how to make a financial transaction easier for both sides. One of the ways is to make usage more of the national currencies in our trade transaction. For small and medium enterprises, I would recommend to address and to come to our trade mission in Jakarta. As you know, we have a separate trade mission the job of this trade mission is exactly to build the context and to help companies to find their way to Russian market, and the opposite for Russian companies to find their way to Indonesian market. So they have a website, all the contacts are there, and you can easily contact them, and they will, it's their job to help anyone who wants to do business with Russia. And the last question, of course, is more addressed to Wahid and to Padidit. So thank you very much. I'll stop at that.
Ambassador Ludmila is right. Actually, on cooperation on IT has been our high agenda on every bilateral meeting, and business to business is also going on. Actually, before the pandemic has been approach between our big companies in Indonesia to Russia IT companies, and actually I can mention that our sponsor today, Atagraha, is very much interested in developing cooperation IT and should be in Moscow this time, but unfortunately there is no flight to Moscow. They will meet somewhere, and also there is interest to have a joint production on heavy equipments in Indonesia for the Southeast Asian market in cooperation also Atagraha with Kamas. We are at the early stage on that. And on the payment, I'm not very, I think maybe Mr. Palikov can answer that, but if I ask some business people from both sides, it seems there is no much difficulties mostly in TT transfer. In our book, Padidit, we also had a testimony of our Indonesian businessmen, including Mayora, who has been exporting to Russia, and I don't think that they have a problem with the payment. So I think you could contact with our friend in Mayora. And I forget to mention that last year we signed a memorandum of cooperation with EAU, with EEC. This is the first step to sign a FTA with Euro-Asian Economic Union, a market of 180 million. Unfortunately, we are still far behind Vietnam. I think Vietnam already signed it about 2-3 years ago. That's why on some products we cannot compete with Vietnam. but hopefully we will speed up this FTA within 2 years. And actually, Minister of Trade has been scheduled to visit Russia in March, but unfortunately, again, because of the pandemic. But we had discussion with on technical references to start negotiating within the working group level. And hopefully, our two trade ministers will set the time to discuss for the first step of the negotiation. And on the investment, I also forgot to mention that there's been a very encouraging sign of investment from Russia. If you look at even our data from BPS, on the first quarter, there is an increase. Last year, there was an increase of 700% of investment from Russia to Indonesia, I think partly because of Rosneft. But I understand that there are many investment from Russia through the third country, mostly from Singapore. And the first quarter, even more encouraging with the increase of 840% of Russian investment to Indonesia. So, but also, I would like also to invite the Indonesian companies to invite in Russia. And there is some interest on some companies, but they're still at the early age. But with our facilitation to the business forum on the set line on the festival, I think we can attract more business people to come to work together. And I'm glad that during the fall festival, Ludmila was always present with us. I think twice as director of Asia 3 department and twice as ambassador. He always take leave on August, to see our festival. I thank you, Ludmila.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that, Ambassador. Thank you for that. Oh, okay. Pak Ivan, go ahead.
I take half a minute your attention. I think Russia-ASEAN Business Council can be a good platform for strengthening our particular contacts and supporting particular projects between our countries.
Thank you. That's very good to know. That's very good to know. And thank you again, Pak Polyakov, Pak Wahid, Ambassador Wahid. It's very good to hear from you that actually, for the most part, Indonesian businesses don't have any problems with regards to payment going to Russia. And this is something that we just have to disseminate and to explain to our fellow businessmen here in Indonesia, because a lot of people don't understand this and are still somewhat skeptical with regards to payment issues between Indonesia and Russia. I think I'd like to thank you for that, Ambassador Wahid. I also like to thank you, Ambassador Ludmila. There was one question with regards to direct trade between Russia and Indonesia that I think we still have to work on, but this is mainly a B2B issue that we'll have to solve together. But I think to conclude the talks today, I think these have been very eye-opening talks. It's been very fruitful. We discussed and we touched upon many issues which are critical in increasing the volumes of investment and trade between Russia and Indonesia. As mentioned by all the speakers, we are very much complementary countries. By nature, we are strategic partners. We are big countries. Russia has the biggest landmass in the world. Indonesia has the biggest archipelago in the world. Together, we have more than 400 million people in population. In 2040 or 45, we will be economy number 4 and 5 in the world. So this is something to look forward to, and we have to build something for a strategic partnership between the two countries. So I'd like to again thank both ambassadors. I'd like to thank Pak Ivan and of course our distinguished Vice Minister Pak Mahendra Siregar. I thank you for your direction and your key speech. Ibu Shinta, your welcoming speech was very wholesome. Thank you very much. And before I end this session, I also like to take a minute just to say thank you to Artagraha and also thank you to Bali High, who have been supporting this event. Bali High is actually the other Indonesian product that is also popular in Russia. aside from Mayora. So you have Mayora for coffee, and the other drink, beer from Bali High. So thank you for that again. And if we could run the video from Pak Rosan as well as the video from Artagraha. Thank you. Thank you again.
It is a great honor and privilege for me on the behalf of Indonesian Chambers of Commerce and Industry to dedicate a message on the occasion of the 70 years anniversary of the establishment of Indonesia-Russia diplomatic relation. In our long journey of our diplomatic relationship, it is only proper for the two countries to commemorate happily our 70 years Indonesia-Russia excellent diplomatic relations, which contain a lifetime of memories, a lifetime of hard work, and a lifetime of partnership. I hope we will continue to further elevate our partnership to bring our countries and people more prosperous.
So with that, I'd like to thank you, all the panelists, the distinguished guests, and all the participants who have participated in this 1.5 hour virtual dialogue. Again, I hope that Indonesia and Russia can go further. This has been only the first 70 years. There are many more years to come in our relationship, and I wish the best to all of us here. And on behalf of Kadin, I'd like to thank you for your participation. Thank you very much, and have a good day.